Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Sleepy Time Junction. My name is Sleepy McGeefy. Dita, what's your name?
Yadira, welcome to Behind the Blind.
Yes, welcome. Oh, that's right. This is the podcast. Sorry, wrong podcast.
It is late and we're both really tired.
Sleepy Time Junction.
You know what? I feel like every time we record, we're like, we're tired.
Yeah.
That's the theme.
When you do all the things we do, I think it's kind of understandable, right?
Yes.
Just a little bit.
Okay, sorry.
And you yawned. And you yawned.
I just said, disclaimer, it's late.
Wow. Sleepy Time Junction is brought to you by
Sleepiness.
Clouds and Sleepiness.
All right. So what are we talking about today?
All right. Today. Wait, hold on. Yeah. This is Behind the Blind. And I'm Nadir. And she said her name already.
This is Yadira.
Okay, cool. All right. So today we will be discussing why we decided to homeschool.
And
to really go into depth.
Yeah. And how we've been doing it for the past couple years.
For the past few
about 9 years.
How many years have we been doing this for?
I would say about 9 years.
78? 79?
About 9 years.
I feel like I'm about 79.
It's been. Anyway, we need more energy. But anyway.
No, yo, I'm tired, yo. I'm not going to be as delirious as I was last time.
No, I think
I'm going to try not to be as delirious.
Anyway, so let's get into it.
Yeah,
so
let's do it.
Why
right,
we homeschool?
You give
we'll
all
start
the
off with that, and
it's
then
going to be a Yadira heavy episode.
Usually is.
As most episodes are. I'm kind of like the co-host.
I'm not yawning or anything like that.
Yeah, sure you're not. No.
Okay, so why we homeschool?
Not.
Well, I think I got into that a little bit because we decided to homeschool when Della was about a year old. And that was kind of a direct response to the traumatic birth that I had with him. Over the course of that first year of his life, I was really stressing. I know he was only a few months old, but I was like, school is going to come before I know it. And there has to be another option. SubhanAllah, I made a lot of dua. Like, there has to be a way around all of this stuff because I don't want to have to deal with this. Like, government kind of intervention and all this other stuff. So,
yep.
SubhanAllah, I didn't even know homeschool was possible or legal or even a thing. And I cannot remember how or why. I just kind of Googled homeschooling and all this stuff came up. And then I as I kept reading, and it was telling me all the research was telling me to look up the laws in each individual state because homeschool laws are not one overarching like federal law thing.
Yeah, it's
legal federally, but every state has
different implementations.
Yeah, and different laws that will govern how you do it and how you implement it. So I had to look up the laws in New Jersey, and they're actually really laid back and I guess liberal for the lack of a better term, but they're just like Texas, the government's not really involved and there's not really any overseeing of what you're doing. So there's a lot of freedom and a lot of room to really educate your kids in the best way you see fit. And I really liked that. There are states like, for example, even though New York and New Jersey are literally on, border each other, the laws in New York are vastly different than the ones in New Jersey.
Give some examples.
So in New York, you have to provide a portfolio of what you've done. You have to, if I'm not mistaken, give the information on the books and the curriculum you've used. And then I think they also have to be tested every year to make sure that they're, I guess, on par with their public school. And it's very, very invasive. And also New York is kind of infamous for rejecting a lot of what you do and giving parents a really difficult time and hassling parents when it comes to homeschooling. Whereas in New Jersey, the only requirement is you provide a certain amount of hours of instruction, but nobody oversees that. They recommend that you keep an attendance record for just in case anybody should question it.
So as soon as the kids wake up, be like, "Are you here?"
Yeah.
Yes, we're here. All right. And attendance done.
And like in Texas, for example, they're pretty much the same rules. You just have to teach writing, reading, and good citizenship in Texas. I don't remember if that was a requirement in New Jersey, but those are the requirements. You
don't have to be a good citizen in New Jersey.
I have no idea. I don't remember. Haven't been there in like 5 years.
That's why when I went to that restaurant visiting in New Jersey, and one guy was walking in, and he was like, "Hey, how you doing?" And as the other guy's walking out, he's like, "I'm good. How about yourself?" And he walks out the door like
didn't even wait for an answer. Yeah,
no,
yeah.
I'm good, man. How about you?
Out.
Door closed.
But, so that's and then if you've ever put your children in both Texas and New Jersey,
this is what happens when good citizenship is not mandatory.
Right. If in both Texas and New Jersey, if you've ever enrolled your child in a public school system, I'm not sure if private, but I definitely know that in public school system, if you've ever enrolled, you have to provide a letter of intent if you plan to pull them out to homeschool.
What is a letter of intent?
So your letter of intent, all it has to say is, I'm the parent of so-and-so, and we are planning to homeschool, so we're withdrawing our child from the public school system.
Can I write the letter like, hey, this is my kid. You guys suck.
No.
And I hate you.
No.
I want to
It has to be
homeschool
professional.
my child so that they're not corrupted.
Anyway, no. So it has to be professional. So that's if you've ever enrolled your child.
That's not a fun letter.
If you've ever enrolled your child in a public school system, that's what you have to do. If you have never done that.
Is that here?
Yes, as well.
Oh, okay.
But in here, well, I'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
But yes, that's the law. But if you've never enrolled your child, you don't even have to report it to the district or anything. So we've never done that. We've never reported. There's no legal reason to do it. So there's no reason for us to go ahead and do that. So we've never done that. That means that we are also we don't do state testing. And a lot of people freak out about that. They're like, you don't do state testing? Then how do you know that your kids are up to par? I'm going to get to that in a little bit. But for parents who don't know, even if your child is enrolled in public school system, you have the option to opt your child out of state testing. That's not a mandatory thing. And you have the option to, in a written letter, state, I do not want my child taking this test. And there is no penalty, and they can't penalize your child for not taking it. The state tests are not really there for the benefit of the child. They are there as a metric for the school district
to get funding, right?
To get funding.
Yeah.
So it's not really a measurement of what your child knows. The state tests are really not there for anything other than for funding and for kind of giving more of a metric of the teachers actually than the actual students. So even if your child is enrolled in state testing, you have the option to take your child out, and they do not have to take the state tests.
I wonder what would happen if all parents are like,
the thing is that
we're not going to take the test.
Most parents don't know that, and B, a lot of parents will still be skeptical, and because there's this sort of cultural idea that you have to do these things.
It's crazy
and that
because you give these people such authority.
Yeah.
Right? You give them such authority, but then whenever they teach your
Things
kids
that
something you don't agree with, or you
Right.
don't want them to teach your child, then you get all mad. It's like, yeah, but you already gave them the authority.
So there's also issues with immigrant parents. So a lot of them may not speak English. So for example,
we both know this.
Right. Well, my grandmother,
She wanted to,
she like read everything. She was kind of
she wanted to sweep the playground,
right? She was a little different, but
with that teacher's
a lot
hair.
of times, unfortunately,
Go back and check out Yadira's story. I think episode
I don't
2
know
or something.
I don't remember what episode it was. It was a couple episodes back.
Yeah.
But so she was a little bit different. But there's a lot of immigrant parents who do not. They don't speak English or read it well. So a lot of times kids will be home. They'll bring home forms for something for a class, particularly like sex ed, for example. You have the right to opt your child out of that if you don't want them taught sex ed, especially if you, like as a Muslim, you want to teach that education in yourself and more aligned with Islamic teachings, and in that manner you have the right to opt them out. Most parents don't know that, or will sign the form thinking that there's no choice around it, but there is. It's just that these authority figures are not going to tell you that you have these rights. So it requires,
for obvious reasons,
right? And so it requires a parent to be really proactive
and diligent,
and very diligent and very involved in what's going on with
right there.
Good job.
Proud of myself.
With their child. But anyway, so being that we are homeschoolers and we live in Texas and we lived in New Jersey, which are two states that really do not have the government involved in what you're doing, we've never really had to deal with any of that stuff. Alhamdulillah. When we moved to New Jersey,
ever put them in public school.
I wish it's all raspy because I'm sleepy. When we put,
all right, DMX, calm down. All right.
So
where my dogs at? Right?
I literally almost barked. Okay. Like just anyway, and I'm not gonna do it. So
the product of growing up on the East Coast.
Right. So when we left New Jersey before we moved, that was the first thing that I looked up. A lot of times even Muslims will ask me, like, did you look around to see what like Muslim community you had? I really honestly didn't. It didn't even cross my mind. But I did, however,
because of things discussed in previous episodes.
Right, it didn't even cross my mind. Like that wasn't even a
like
that was not even a criteria on my list.
A community that's just gonna mistreat you and alienate you.
So it wasn't even it wasn't even on my list.
You really don't matter, bro. I just need a masjid so I could go pray at.
So
you know what I mean?
For me, number one on the list were what are the homeschool laws like, and what does the homeschool community look like in the state where we're going to be moving in. So I kind of literally went down through every state, and only chose the ones that have the laws that were just like New Jersey's, and Texas was one of them. And then I saw that the community
Any
here,
other ones you could think off the
I
top
think
of your head?
Michigan is another one, but Michigan is really cold, and I just didn't want to move to somewhere that was colder than New Jersey. I really don't like the cold. Michigan is one of them. I can't. This was a while ago, and I just
I
don't
think
remember.
North Carolina was one of them too.
If it wasn't exactly like this, it was more.
It was close.
It was close to it. I think you just had to provide like a letter of intention. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Honestly, this was like 5 years ago, and I just really haven't done that research because it just doesn't pertain to us anymore.
Nope. We're not leaving Texas.
Yeah. So, but the homeschool community,
Unless something cataclysmic happens.
Right.
Yes.
But,
I got it.
For example, the community. So while the laws are great in New Jersey and really homeschool friendly, the community, at least when I was there, that might be changing. This was 5 years ago. And honestly, compared to when I started homeschooling to now, homeschooling has really gained a lot of traction, and it's become very, very popular, and it's become a
that
really
could be
viable
because of
option.
COVID, right?
No, even before that, I was watching. There's been an uptick, and then COVID, of course, just like catapulted it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Has a lot to do with, like I said, man. There's a lot of
Things-
stuff being
right.
taught in school, especially
Not just-
narratives that
not-
are trying to be pushed.
not just that.
That's big.
quite-
That's a big part of
That's
it.
not honestly that it's not just that, but like when your
I think it's a big part
kindergartners
of it.
are being they have to do shootout drills.
What the hell is that? Oh yeah. Oh yep.
That's a problem. Like
Yeah.
when your preschoolers know what to do when there's an active shooter.
It's
There's
funny. It's like our kids are like, "Oh, I don't ever want to go to public school
Right.
because there's so
because
many
they know
school
how
shootings."
right. They're like, no, I'm not. I don't want that. It's funny because like not just me, but like homeschoolers, some like will joke around and be like, "That's the threat. Your kids act up. They're like, I'm putting you in school." Like, no, never mind.
I'll behave.
I'll be
I
here. Yeah.
promise.
So that's kind of like a little
I'll go read that chapter.
right. That was one of the. There's a lot of reasons why we chose to homeschool, but the community in New Jersey, while the laws were great, the community was dismal.
Was
Like
minuscule.
we didn't have
it was
a community.
Tiny. There was nothing. And one thing that plays to that is that New Jersey is very expensive to live in. So a lot of times it's not just a single person working.
Well, here's the thing about that though.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know it exists.
No, listen.
Okay.
The culture of it is not so accepted over there.
That's true. It's
because
very
over here,
stigmatized over
honestly,
there. Hold on. Let's just talk about New Jersey and then we'll talk about over here.
but I have to compare this.
No, you don't.
Because you
First
just
you got to explain and then you compare.
no, because
Okay.
it's literally going along with the thought.
Okay, fine.
So over here, because you just said both parents work.
Yeah.
So, but over here, we have come across a decent number of families where both parents are working and they make it work. They still homeschool. They make it work. They figure out a schedule, or they'll have someone help, like a grandparent or something like that, or they'll hire a tutor. Or I've also met single parents who do it. So it's it's a matter of what you really think, or what your priorities are, and if you're willing to fit it in. But this is not uncommon. It's not something that's like, wow, that's like the unicorn. You know what I mean? It happens.
Yeah. No, over here.
Over here, it has a lot to do with, because when you're in a homeschool community, it's literally like family. So if you need someone to help you out with your kid at any point, people are going to support that, and people are going to come in and help with that. So where in New Jersey, since it's not so accepted and it's not such a big thing, you're not going to get the same support. The support system doesn't matter where you're at. And since over here in Texas, the homeschool community is a huge thing, if people who do have parents both working or a single parent home, they can still manage to make it work because of the network of support that exists out here versus in New Jersey. With those things in mind, that's why we chose to move out here. That was really the biggest thing, outside of the economics, and it's you can grow and all that stuff. But the
New
homeschooling,
Jersey's really, it's at least like Yadira said 5 years ago. It really was not conducive
And,
for homeschooling,
my poor kids,
specifically with trying to build a community and find other homeschoolers and other homeschool
my poor kids, like
and-
if people would ask them, like, sometimes people will
grade are
ask
you
you,
in?
what grade are
How's
you in?
school?
And they'd be like, oh, we homeschool. And they would, in New Jersey, would get these weird looks. Over here, it's like, oh, okay, that's good.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody-
Or over here, it's like, really? I've really been thinking about doing that.
And so many times on Lyft or Uber, I've talked to drivers and like informed them a little bit of what we do and how we do it and the different options, because they're like, oh, I've really been thinking about it. And so it's really widely, or my kids will be like, or we'll be like, we homeschool, and someone will be like, oh yeah, us too. And that happens a lot too.
Yep. And then we start talking about different resources.
And sharing information and stuff.
Yep.
So, and I even had a teacher who was our Uber driver, and we were like, yeah, like we homeschool, and then we started talking about writing curriculum, and so then he starts giving me options for resources and stuff, because it's just not an odd thing.
It's really not.
Yeah, nobody's being like, oh, but they're going to miss out on this, that, and the third. And even this teacher was like, oh, honestly, if you can manage it, that's like the best solution to homeschool. So you'll even get teachers who will support your decision to homeschool out here.
So address the the big elephant in the room, the one question we always get.
The socialization.
Aren't you afraid they're going to be weirdos, unsocial?
Not socialized.
Not
they're going to be
pariahs of
They're going to be loners. They're not going to know how to interact. And so that's always the big question, and always the thing is, like I said, when you take on to the responsibility of homeschooling, it's not just the academic portion. And a lot of people want to focus on that, but it's not. The other half of it is the socialization. And so you as a parent have to take that on 100%. And you have to make it, you have to make sure that there are social events and activities readily available for them. And because there's such a big homeschool culture out here, those things are just around the corner. So places here will, like the skating rinks will have homeschool days. The jump parks will have homeschool days. Aquariums, zoos, museums. There's so many. The libraries will have homeschool events. There's just so many opportunities. And that's not including things like park day when you join a homeschool group, and there's so many to choose from here.
Like really a whole lot.
Yeah. Like way, way too many.
There's too many options to have an excuse.
Yeah. Not to socialize. And so there's park days, and then these homeschool groups will organize field trips. Like we've gone to zoos and farms and historical sites. And the kids even went to where they manufacture the money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, that was cool.
And they get these really good learning experiences along with being able to do it with their homeschool friends, other kids who are homeschooling just like them. And then there's things like co-op. And co-op is what,
a whole nother thing.
Yeah. What co-op usually is families get together, and either they will teach the classes, the parents. And then there's like two options. You can do co-op with drop off, which means you just pay your fees, you drop them off, and they go once or twice a week, maybe 3 times a week, not really every day, for a few hours, and they get taught classes there. And then the other option, which is what our kids are doing, is the co-op without a drop off. So one parent has to be available on the premises at all time, and you have to help out in one way or another with either the cleanup or assisting the teachers or making, like, walking the hallways. You have to help out in one way, shape, or form. So for me, for example, our youngest is 5, and the co-op that we do, it's in like 2 buildings. It's the same place, but it's in 2 buildings. So her 2 of her classes are in one building and the other classes in another. And she's too little to walk from building to building by herself. So I stay with her the entire day, and my kids stay with their teachers and their friends in the other building because they're old enough, and they don't switch buildings. It's a really good way for them to get some of these co-ops. They will offer core classes, so math, language arts, science, but they will also offer like elective type classes. So my kids are pretty much all taking electives. So like Noah's taking geography and island survival and Minecraft classes, and Bella's taking an apothecary class and a board game class.
Game board class.
I'm sleepy.
Learning how to make game boards.
Board game class, and he's doing like like a Lego class. And
what the hell was the last class he does? Like Mindstorm or something.
Yeah,
like
something
that,
to do with
right?
Legos.
What the hell is that?
I have something to do with it. He likes it. That's good.
Uh-huh.
And then the girls, Suhaila does her little arts and crafts and ballet, and a little explorers, which is like, geography for kindergartners. And then there's like
Sumaya does
this. And then like she does little readers, and she does and Suhaila does sewing, and she does ballet, and she does gardening. So she's been coming home with lots of things planted and then
and stuff like
and
that.
stuff like that. So, and but those are all just electives, and they really get to just enjoy the classes because I teach the core classes. But there's so many options to choose from in that particular co-op. But there's also a lot of micro schools out here, and that's kind of where they'll have teachers do it instead of parents.
Mm-hmm.
And then every school kind of follows different methodologies of homeschooling and like education. So you can have something like a Montessori, which is like really like a natural based kind of thing. Or
what does that mean?
Like, so they learn, that's where you play with even as they're older.
Because I've heard this word at least 500 to 1,000 times within my lifetime.
So they're
and I
like
still don't know
when
what
they're
the hell
little,
it means.
it's just like letting them learn by watching and observing and mimicking. And there's a lot of toys that are wooden, and it's all like natural, like more that kind of thing. And then you have Waldorf, which is kind of similar, but then they're more heavily based on art and nature. And then you can have Charlotte Mason, which is like really more of a structured and classical approach. And then there is classical, but Charlotte Mason would fall more under that, and that's kind of heavily Christian. You can alter it to fit your needs, but these are just and then there's eclectic, and there's so you just pull from different methodologies, and then there's like democratic.
What's your methodology?
I think I call myself a laid back homeschooler, so maybe under eclectic, and we do a lot of child-led interest learning. So yes, we teach how to read, write, and do math, and then pretty much everything else is, what do you want to learn about? So for example, we went to the aquarium today, and Noah was literally schooling us on saw sharks. And this kid knew like all the facts. And everywhere we went, because he's really into
Animals
and nature and all that kind of stuff.
So we really encourage him to,
to explore
dig
that.
into that stuff.
So my son came home and he's been baking macaroons. It was a pretty big, long process. And so that's his interest. So he does a lot of baking and a lot of testing different recipes because that's what he wants to do. So
those macaroons are rocking.
They really were. Mashallah, he's really good. But Suhaila she's learning how to sew because she really wants to possibly pursue something in that for now. Like she's 8, that can change, but she really loves to sew. So she's learning how to do that. And then
we throw in Islamic studies, of course.
Yeah.
Islamic studies is usually how we start off the day, long as I get up.
Here's the thing.
I'm the one running Islamic studies.
Islamic studies is not, here, memorize this. Islamic studies is for us learning a lot about like the stories in the Quran, memorizing what you need to know for prayer, and character building.
Understanding
what you're saying because since they're not native speakers.
That's a big part of it.
Even
native speakers don't know what the hell any of these surahs mean. Let's be real here.
But
most native speakers can't tell me what Maliki Yawmiddin means. You know what I mean? Which is sad.
But also character building is huge for us because Islam doesn't just stop at the end of Islamic studies lesson. Like Islam is a way of life. And a lot of times that kind of gets separated, right? There's Islam and then there's your life. And that's really problematic because you're supposed to maintain and carry yourself a certain way as a Muslim. And so character building is huge for us when it comes to Islamic studies and whatnot.
And that's just throughout the day.
Yeah.
That's throughout the day.
That's throughout the day. The manners and the, treatment of others and just the way that you should be behaving.
And that's really not instructional. That's more as an example that we set.
Like a really organic way of just naturally letting it take its course. So
not focusing more on culture.
Now, honestly though, because
really focusing on the Islamic,
and I know a lot of people are going to disagree, but this is the beauty of homeschooling. As you go in your journey, you're going to realize that really nobody homeschools the way you do.
Yeah.
Because since you're homeschooling your own individual children and it's your family, that's going to be the basis of how you of like your foundation of how you proceed. So even if someone's kind of following what curriculum I'm doing and kind of following this, they still won't apply it the same way because we're not the same family.
And everyone, these kids, they learn differently.
Every kid,
despite what we're told and taught growing up,
every child learns differently.
You have one classroom, one teacher. The teacher teaches everybody the same thing in the same way. That's not how human beings work.
That's just not how it is. And people
like
would be.
I mean, you do you.
People would be surprised how much children actually learn just day to day, and how much they pick up. For us, we do Islamic studies and things like that. But now that Dalla is going to be going into high school pretty soon. Now we're going to start looking into something a little bit more structured for his Islamic studies. So maybe doing certifications online and so he can have that knowledge. He's a little bit older and he can actually understand those concepts a lot better and not just understand them, but really
learn how to implement them.
Yeah. And, so that they can really resonate with him.
Yeah.
And actually gain meaning. I tend to want to do things like that when they're a little bit older and can appreciate it. So there's a lot of foundation on the stories of the prophets. When I was little, and I was Catholic, growing up, those were my favorite things, learning about the stories of the different stories in the Bible. So for me, I've sort of just transferred that over and we learn about the stories in the Quran and the kids really take to that. It works well for us. So that's just for Islamic studies. What else?
Yeah, that's just one facet of it all. We were able to see, like where Noah had difficulty with reading.
So let's get into that because that's a big question I get asked about particularly from blind parents. How I can't, like, they'll question, like, I couldn't do that. How am I going to teach them how to read? How am I going to teach them how to write? It's not to say that it's not without its challenges, because it is. But I have taught, Sumaya's learning how to read, and I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But let's go with the older three right now. I've taught all of them how to read and write in print, and I cannot see anything. And when my second son, Noah, was learning how to read, I knew something wasn't quite right. And so when I started doing the research, I had to wait to get him really tested for dyslexia until he was about 8 years old, because they won't really do it before. And that's because up to that age, it's very common for them to like mistake letters for others and to have some issues with reading that are really normal. But by around 8 years old, that should fade out if they're not dyslexic. In Noah's case, that was not it. He was still struggling. And so then...
So, for example, like the B's and the D's and the P's would kind of all run into each other.
And W's and M's.
Yeah.
And E's. The capital E's. Because they kind of all... It's kind of the same thing almost, but they're just
similar,
slanted in different positions.
In different positions, yes.
So these were things that had their challenges, but there's a lot of tools that we've used. For us, being that I am completely blind and Ned is legally blind, visually impaired, we heavily rely on digital resources. So a lot of what we do comes from online or apps or PDF files or something that's going to work for us. Sorry, I had to clear my throat.
Because a lot of times, it's usually like hardcover, hard copy stuff, books, paperback, and stuff like that.
And in terms of curriculum, it's honestly overwhelming how much there's out there. There's a whole huge market
of curriculum,
and you can run the gambit everywhere from very Christian stuff to very secular. The only thing you really don't see much of, honestly, is Muslim stuff.
We've been seeing things pop up, but I'm gonna be real with you, man.
It's still very far behind the curve.
It's so far. Like, I don't understand why we are so behind, man. When it comes to so many things, we're like 30 years behind everybody. If not 100 years behind everybody.
When it comes to particularly homeschooling, Muslims are so behind the curve. Like, Christians started advocating for all this stuff back in when it got huge, it was like in the 80s when they were like pushing for it to be legal. And I think it was all legalized in the 90s. So they've laid this groundwork. And so they know what they're doing.
So take advantage of it.
Yeah.
You know what it is? I think there was a really, and we still see it till today, there's this really big push to assimilate. To assimilate, but still be different. It's kind of weird.
Right? And I'm assuming growing up Muslim, that's a really hard balance to keep up.
It's like you have to maintain your culture, right? You have to maintain your culture, but you got to be in school and you got to be having straight A's. But the thing is this educational system is absolutely contrary to our culture.
And even as growing up in an immigrant family, I can tell myself that the only option is you got to go to college. You got to go to college. That was drilled in. And honestly, as homeschoolers now,
what do you think college is going to do? College is going to destroy that cultural system.
But now I see, not only that college is not the only path to having a successful career. There's so many options. And if you just let your kid explore what they really like, then you just have to figure out how to get them to make it a success. And all they need is the tools and the ability to learn it. This is something I tell every time somebody asks me about it. And I'm like, see, for us, the goal is not...
What about college? What about high school?
Right. And the goal is not, learn facts A, B, and C today. And if you don't know those by tomorrow on your test, then you failed.
Yeah. Because that's really what it boils down to.
That's not how we do it. For us, if you learn how to learn, then there's nothing that you won't, no type of information or knowledge is off limits. Right. So learning how to learn means, so for example, the boys at one point were like, how is Himalayan salt made? And they were younger. So I was like, I don't know. But if you want to know, how are you going to get this answer? And they were like, they stood for a minute and they're like, we're going to go YouTube it. So right there, that's learning how to learn. They figured out how to get information. They didn't know it. So now they know how to use tools and resources that they have in order to gain information, and lots and lots of reading. Especially when they're younger, most of what we do is just reading. I still sit down and do audiobooks, even with Della, who's 13.
Yep, I'm reading that audiobook with Nuhi.
Yeah, and you're reading You're reading Hatchet with him. So lots and lots.
A really good book.
I mean, much reading.
You can totally tell it's that age level.
Yeah,
but it's good.
So much reading. I can't emphasize that enough. And audiobooks count as reading. So lots and lots and lots of reading. Just any chance you get, just read. Because even if your preschooler brings you the same book 8 times, it's still reading and they're still gaining something from it.
And Abdullah really doesn't like reading.
No, he's not a reader. And mind you, I read to him. I did lots of reading and he's just not
Like
into it
Yadira, and remember, he was the only kid that was by themselves
for like almost 3 years.
So he got the brunt of it.
Yeah.
Like he got all the reading.
But
he's just not into it.
He's just not into it. My other ones, Noah, he doesn't mind reading. Suhaila loves reading. I do like a book challenge with them. And like if you read a certain amount of books, you get little prizes. I had to up Suhaila's number because she was just going through it. She's like, "Where's my prize?" And I'm like, "No. You can't read 5 books and get a prize. You need to read 10 books." And so and Sumaya really loves reading and loves being read to. So, but every child will vary. Every child will differ. And the fact that Della's not a reader, an avid reader, doesn't make it bad.
I mean, I wasn't a big reader until you got me into audiobooks.
Right.
Like I really wasn't into it because of my my visual impairment, having to use magnification software or a video magnifier to enlarge the text, and the fact that I don't get to see the whole thing at one time. I read in chunks, and it's broken up for me, and I lose my place constantly, and it's like, no, this isn't cool.
Audiobooks are great.
But when you showed me audiobooks, I was like, oh, let's go.
And audiobooks,
Harry Potter audiobooks, dope.
They're really good. Audiobooks are absolutely an option, especially if you don't have an avid reader. Abdullah will read. He prefers factual books. Getting him to read fiction is hard. He really doesn't.
You give him a book of facts though,
and he will devour it.
He's chilling. Yeah.
So I don't harp like, oh, you have to read this fic. I really don't. The only time that we read fictional books is when we're doing audiobooks together, because then he likes it and he'll read it, and he likes sitting as a family and reading.
Yep.
So, but if it's by himself, just give him a fact book and he'll read it, no problem.
Yep.
In terms of writing, that was the trickiest part. There's tools that you use. I actually got my hands on years ago, NBP, which the National Braille Press, I think is what it stands for, were discontinuing this set of workbooks. And they were extremely helpful. And it's a set of 4, and each set has 10 volumes in it. They're very small. They're readers. And what they are is they have the print on them along with the braille and print pictures. Not like with labels on it. It's like the page itself is brailled.
Mm-hmm.
I've used those from Abdullah, and I still have them, and I will be using them with Sumaya.
But that's for reading, not writing.
That's for teaching them how to read.
Yeah.
Now for writing, there are tools like it's now you have a bunch of companies doing it. But when I first started, they were called Magnetab, and I can't remember who makes them. But they're called Magnetab, and what it is like a board with little magnetic balls in it, like tiny little beads. And it comes with a magnetic pen. And
they're metal balls.
Yeah, they're little.
Right?
Yeah.
The letters are formed out of holes, and you take this magnetic pen.
And you trace the letters.
You trace the letters, and it gives you the starting point.
So
on the board.
But the starting point is like 1, 2, 3, 4, like for the strokes.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives the number, so you have to follow it in order. And it teaches them proper hand strokes, because a lot of times people do teach writing, but they let their kids not follow appropriate hand strokes, and that can cause a lot of issues down the road.
Mm-hmm.
So I've used these boards with all the kids. I'm using them now with Sumaya. And then what I do is I'll take books that are actually more considered like baby board books. And I use those for copying just initially, just because I'm not really looking for content. I'm just getting them to get used to writing letters.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then as they get older, they might do some copy work of books that are a little bit more intricate and things like that. But for writing, we also do journals. And at some point, right around Noah's age, right around 9 or 10, which I have to start with him soon. I just delayed it a little bit because, he's still in his dyslexia therapy.
Yeah,
and
that's
things
the
like
thing.
That.
Noah's been doing dyslexia therapy for 2 years now.
Yeah. And we're almost done.
Alhamdulillah. And I mean, the thing is, when it comes to homeschooling, just on a side note, a lot of this stuff is out of pocket, right?
Yeah. All of it is, really. Yeah, we don't have grants. We don't have funding.
I forgot who mentioned it, but I really do wonder if I can claim some of this on my taxes. I don't know why I haven't, but...
you should look into it.
For real.
In some states, not all, you can get funding from the public school system, or they will let you take some classes in the public school system, but then that means that they have they want to oversee progress, and so
we'll just pay out of
I
pocket.
would never accept that personally, because I just don't like people overseeing what I'm doing with my kids.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I will not do that. But that is an option for like financial things.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that if you may try a curriculum for 1 year, and that may not work even halfway through the year, so you'll just switch.
You got to get a new curriculum.
Right.
Yep.
Or you'll buy one and it works for one kid, but it's not working for the other. So you have to get something else. And that might be the next year, or it might work for a few years and then not work. Or you might go back to it. Like we use IXL. That's an app for their language arts and their math.
Yep.
And so we left it for a little bit, went to a different service, which was like thinkstudy.com.
This for Abdullah.
Yeah. And
Noah just,
and
but
Noah.
Noah barely did study.com.
Yeah,
he
'cause
went
just-
right back to IXL.
because it wasn't a good fit for him.
It was too, you had to read too much.
Yeah, and
And
for
he
somebody-
was dyslexic.
Yeah.
And it just didn't work.
for him. And then, so you will try different platforms, apps, curriculum. It's really a lot of trial and error, and you're kind of learning alongside with your kids.
So what is
and
the thing
growing.
you're going to do with Nuhi? You were saying I interrupted
So
you.
a
I'm
lot of
sorry.
time, so right around that age, usually I will switch them over to, they have to learn how to type, and then they learn to email me their assignments. So I don't do handwritten things for too long,
Mhm.
because for me, it's a lot easier to be able to judge your writing,
And
especially
you can read it.
yeah, your
with
writing
your-
composition with your emails rather
Mm-hmm.
than something handwritten.
Mhm.
Another thing that I don't really, subhanAllah, all these educational things, like and science proven, and like with psychology and stuff, child psychology, children don't really start being able to absorb and understand intangible concepts. So like abstract concept
Mhm.
until around 7. And so that's really when you should start with, not be wholehearted, like hardcore, but start with formal schooling around 7.
And that goes along with what?
That goes along with Islamic teachings.
Mhm.
You really shouldn't start formal schooling. So this push to have your child read by the time they're 4 years old is not natural to them. It's not. It's not natural to them to be writing by 4 or 5 years old, and spelling and all. These are not
Now, is that
natural.
opinion or is that fact?
No, that's fact. That's not an opinion. It's just that the education system doesn't benefit from that. Okay.
Mhm.
And even if you look at schools over like in Sweden and Denmark, and I think it's Finland actually, somewhere over there, they consistently rank at the top of the best school systems in the world.
Mhm.
They don't start schooling until around 8 years old. And even then, it's pretty much all play based and outdoors. That's another thing too. I emphasize a lot. Get them outside a lot. Let them learn a lot through nature. It's really good for them. But they don't start that until around 8. And they don't really start formally doing stuff like really more structured until like middle school and high school, because it just naturally a child develops in that way. And so like, for example, Sumaya is 5. And so people are like, oh, she doesn't know how to read yet. No, because she's 5 and she shouldn't be knowing how to read yet. Yes, she can recognize, and she's starting on her own to be like, oh, mama, you spell this, how you spell bat. And then she'll sound out each letter sound and then put them together and say, okay, B-A-T, after she's done all of that. So she's kind of doing it on her own. So now that she's showing me interest in that, I will bring out these, I think they're either made by educational resources or...
Those cards that you fill in the letters.
No, those are Melissa and Doug, and I've been using those for a while because she just likes to...
Those are cool.
The puzzle effect. It has a picture. It's a wooden card and has a picture of a boat.
I'm going to start a podcast named that.
And
The Puzzle Effect.
and then...
We're going to go into your mind and
it has like cutouts.
puzzle out all of the
I'm going to just keep
craziness.
going.
Okay.
It has the puzzle letter, like the cutouts, and she has to put in the wooden letters to spell the word boat or bus or whatever. But what I'm talking about is these plastic little letters that you
But it's a night boat.
night boat
Night boat.
that you string onto a color, like a lace, a shoestring, and you can spell letters that way. It's either educational insights or learning
What do
resources.
they call that? Lacy
make it.
letters?
No, but I can find all the names.
That's a good name for it.
No.
We should remake a product similar to it
Okay.
and name it that.
Anyway.
Lacy letters.
So, and they have a bucket of
Letter
it. And one of
laces.
them is like uppercase and the other one's lowercase, and you can mix and match, and they come with a ton of them in it. And they're really, really good for letting them spell, just not by spelling it, like writing it, but hands doing it, manipulating it with their hands. So it even gives a better effect. And Play-Doh, making letters out of, like Play-Doh is huge in this house, always has been. What else do I use? I've had so many tools. For visual stuff, they'll trace like those dot to dot cards where you just trace, the dots, the dotted things, the dotted lines for the letters. I've used those as well. And I'm drawing. So for spelling, not necessarily writing.
Use wiki sticks too.
Oh yes, I use wiki sticks, which is like just wax covered yarn. You can get different brands. So honestly, their wiki sticks are more expensive, but they're just better.
They're the same. Are they?
Yeah, honestly,
they're
I've
just-
used other brands.
Okay.
And
So get the real brand,
the
guys.
wiki sticks is just better. Honestly, I will shell out a little bit more money.
Wiki sticks.
And those are fun. We have they come with these cards that they can shape out the letter. And then on the back, it has all these pictures and words of what, like, so C is for clown and crab and crib. You know what I mean? It'll have all these things in it. For math, lots of manipulatives for that too. So Brands that I recommend a lot are Educational Insights, Learning Resources, Melissa and Doug, and The Learning Journey. I really particularly like those brands because they offer a lot of options. We learn a lot through gameplay. So there's this book, I think Learning Resources makes this one, and it's like Some Swamp addition and subtraction game.
That's what got Della on it.
Yeah, and I've done it with even Noah and Suhaila, and I got to do it now with Sumaya. And so it's a board game that teaches them how to add and subtract and odds and evens, the difference between them and what they are. And it's just a lot through playing board games. Educational Insights has a lot of really good educational games for the younger, like 3 to 7 year olds, and those are really good for foundational instruction, for them to learn their foundational skills, but in a really relaxed manner. And in a fun way. So there's a lot of hands-on stuff that we do. I haven't really done a lot of like video watching, like a lot of people do YouTube videos and things like that. We've done that, yes, but
whenever we want to like a chill school day, we'd be like, yo, go watch some documentaries.
So we do Curiosity Stream, Nat Geo, a lot of documentaries.
Muslim Kids TV. I use for the Islamic study stuff. Like they have a whole video series, like an animated series on the Sira of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, of the lives of the prophets, they have other ones like the Golden Age, which I can't wait to get up. They have Islamic history. That was dope.
Yep, we did that.
Because they went through like African history.
Asian history.
Really dope.
It's really cool.
Really good resource.
Now, people might be like, those kind of, like if they see the videos and they're like, they're kind of young. But honestly, if you know how to adapt it for different ages, a lot of times we will teach, like science is usually done 9 times out of 10 with all 4 of them involved. And so you're running the ages between 13 and 5. It just depends on what they're contributing to the project and what you want them to do afterwards with it. So you have to adapt it to their age.
All right, wife.
What?
We got to wrap it up.
Really? Already?
That's it.
Your brother keeps saying to make it a little longer.
Listen, Ahmed, I love you, bro. I do.
Where are we at on
Big
time?
shout out at Ahmed. It's 45 minutes.
Yeah, you're going to you give it like 5 minutes. Because you're going to shave off like 5 with your time bolt.
Hey, don't give away my tools. How dare you?
You can edit that out.
How dare you?
Okay, whatever. You can edit that out.
Unbelievable.
Anyway.
I am heartbroken and dismayed.
Okay.
And disappointed.
Are we going to end it or are you going to just...
All right, good. Keep going.
So,
we'll give it another 5 minutes. Sure.
So those are just some of the tools that we use.
I can't think of any other diss words. Give me other diss words. Give me 3 diss words right now. We're done. So 1, 2, 3, go.
We've used an abacus. That was huge. We still use that. For math, that was Melissa and Doug one. We've used a lot of counting things, a lot of educational resources. I'm sorry, I just combined 2 companies. Learning Resources.
That's our company. Educational Resources. And
Educational Insights. Educational Insights has so many awesome things. Both of those companies do, but I really like Educational Insights. But both are really good. Melissa and Doug is another one that's really, really good.
Yeah.
So it can be done. It's not impossible. Trust me, when I first got, especially learning how to write, teaching them how to write when they're little, especially for Della, because he was like my trial kid, my poor kid.
The trial and error kid.
Every
first kid is the trial and error kid.
I reached out to so many different websites or something with teachers and stuff, and they kind of were helpful, but not really. At the end of the day, I had to figure out what worked for me and how I was going to manage it. And we're still figuring it out. And we're still figuring it out. Like, especially Della's going into high school, so this is uncharted territory for me. So this is a bit stressful. Oh God. So some of the questions that I've been asked real quick that are just, again, questions that you probably should think about before you. Last couple
of minutes. Yeah, go for it.
At some point you're going to put them in real school. That's one that I get a lot.
So that's that's really disingenuous, right? Like, oh, you're going to put them in real school? It's like, bro, so you're telling me, hold on. You're telling me all the education that went on before the past, 100 years?
Wasn't
real? It wasn't real?
How natural is it, right? In when you're done with school, especially high school, up to there, how natural is it really to be in one class or in one room, in one setting with the same age of people, right? All doing and learning the same thing. That is not.
It doesn't exist in real life. It doesn't. Think about it.
The more natural setting
is. You guys that work in offices, right? Think about it. How many people in your office is literally doing the same thing as you? You guys are all the same age, right?
And you have the same schedule.
Exactly. Think about it. Honestly. doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. It's not a
doesn't
natural way
happen.
of doing things. So for us, like our kids, you'll see the homeschool groups, you will find 13-year-olds playing with the 5-year-olds, and that's not a big deal. You'll find a 16-year-old pushing an 8-year-old on a swing. Like
No,
that's
exactly.
Not,
But
that's
you see,
not odd.
they're more kind of playing the older kid role, right? But they'll do it, and it's not like, oh, these are little kids. They're
No.
not cool. I'm not gonna go
No,
interact with them.
they're not like that at all. I mean,
Exactly.
so there is not just the academic component. There is a whole social component that goes into it, and it really makes a difference on how your child behaves. Another quick comment that I've gotten, besides, are you gonna put your kid in real school, or are you afraid of their being not socialized correctly? Is, oh crap, I just drew a blank.
And we'll see you on the next episode.
I
of
guess so,
Behind the
because I
Blind.
can't remember it. I really was going somewhere with it.
Wow,
but
look at
it
you, Yadira,
just-
with the cliffhanger.
It just left my mind. But those are some of the questions that we've gotten. The other thing is, how are you going to, how do you know that they're really learning like what they're supposed to if they're not taking these tests? And I'm just like, I know that they're learning when they can talk to me about it, and I see how they're implementing it in what they're doing. And
I mean, just ask yourself the question. It's like, just because they pass a test doesn't mean that they actually learned it.
Right.
They learned it enough to pass that test.
Right. That's it.
And then once that test is gone, peace out.
Yeah.
It's done.
It's done.
That's it.
So those are a lot of the questions that I get or comments that I've gotten. And I honestly, people, you have to trust, you learn how to trust your child. And I know that might sound weird, but you learn how to trust your child. Your child learns how to trust you.
And you know when they're faking it.
Oh yeah.
You know when they're faking
And
it.
you
We
really,
can call
and
them out
because
on
you
it.
spend literally like 24/7 with your children, you really get to know them. And quite frankly, our 13-year-old and our 10-year-old still come out to hang out with us. And like, that's just not weird for them.
No.
And so,
And we joke with each other.
right.
And,
you form this really tight foundation with them. And they and our kids will talk to us about anything, no matter how uncomfortable the subject is. And they know there's a level of trust where you can say, okay, I've taught you this. Now you can go ahead and do it. Like some people would go crazy if they saw like their 7 or 8-year-old work in a stove, but our kids can do it because I told them, now that I show them, yes, we trust you with that. All you have to do is be careful. Just be attentive to what you're doing, and you'll be all right.
Will they get little burns here and there?
It happens.
Absolutely. Just like you and I would, right?
But, if you don't let them take guided risks or, risks that you are kind of just watching over and just enough, but you got to let them take some kind of risk. And that really starts to develop that trust between parent and child. And that's, I think, one of the biggest and best things of homeschooling.
And we'll leave it at that. All right, guys. So I don't know if we're going to do a part 2 on this. But
well, here's, if people
it.
have questions and I could do more, or I could figure out something like put more YouTube videos or something to address other questions or comments or issues or anything like that you're interested in knowing on homeschool. Because this is just a quick overview because there is a lot more to it.
Yeah, there's a lot. So let us know if you want us to elaborate more, right? Make sure you follow us on all of this Islam by Touch on all the social medias, right? On Social Book. On
What is with us?
I don't
messing
know.
up names
on
here.
Face Space in my book. All right, so face us. God, I'm all over the place. Make sure you guys follow us on Instagram, on Twitter, on
Facebook.
That's the stupid Mark Zuckerberg thing.
Yeah.
And then
check out the YouTube channel.
TikTok. I got to start posting stuff on there.
But
There's a
YouTube-
bunch of stuff on there already though. There's the YouTube, of course. We're throwing up shorts on there, so make sure you guys like and share those shorts. Please like and share everything, guys. We really want to increase this listener base. We want more people to check out what we're doing, so please check it out. And of course, Yadira, how can people follow you?
At Always Yadira.
At Always Yadira on all the same platforms, right? You could,
and of course, I'm on the YouTube channel.
And she's on the YouTube channel, of course. And
that's about it.
That's about it, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe, leave comments, leave reviews, let people know what we're doing. Ramadan is coming up, guys, so we need support because, Islam by Touch runs off of the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the combined effort of the Muslim community that actually sees this as something that needs to be supported. So please share this around. And of course, we will see you guys next time where we take you behind the blind. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
dum 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 dum.